So thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. It's exciting to address the City Council. Okay, so I'm going to give a little bit of a State of the Food Bank address. I'm going to talk about Feed the Line activities, also Shorten the Line activities. Many of our community does not realize that we're involved in many different ways of trying to shorten the line. And when I say shorten the line, what are the long-term impacts that Tarrant Area Food Bank can support other organizations with to help people get back on their feet so they don't have to stand in line waiting for our food. And a little bit on the COVID-19 response, and then I would like to make a case for some of the areas of need that we have moving into the next year. I don't know how many of you know that we serve not only Tarrant County, but also 12 other counties, predominantly to the north and to the south. In true Amon Carter fashion, we are split along I-35. If you go east and north, that is North Texas Food Bank, not your Tarrant Area Food Bank. If you go to the west and to the south, as you'll see mostly to the south, this is Tarrant Area Food Bank. In the last year, and we just closed out our fiscal year went through the end of September. We now have over 350 partner agencies in these 13 counties and distributed more than 60 million pounds of food, which is about 1 million meals a week. So Valerie was talking about the 10,000 meals that we produce in our kitchen on site. But in addition to that, we're serving over 1 million meals. That's about a 40 or 50% increase compared to the prior fiscal year. Most of this was escalated as a result of COVID-19. However, I will tell you in some of our own statistics, we know that prior to COVID, we were not fully servicing the needs of our service area. The dichotomy of our work, the community gives us help in the form of food, time, money, and voice so that we can give help to the community for food today, tomorrow, and for a lifetime. We are part of an organization called Feeding America. Feeding America is a network of 200 food banks across the United States, of which Tarrant Area Food Bank is one. This is fairly rigorous to be a part of this network. There are federal and state guidelines that we have to follow. We are inspected by a national agency called AIB to make sure that we're storing and handling food safely and according to regulatory guidelines, that our food is not being mishandled or being sold on the open market. When you get this recognition through Feeding America, you are then eligible to receive the United States Department of Agriculture and Texas Department of Agriculture food, which is a very, very large benefit for our community. You can see on the bottom in the chart, we purchase very, very little of our food. And nobody, frankly, in our community should have to purchase food. We are the reservoir for the food in our community. So if there is a nonprofit that is buying food, please redirect them to Tarrant Area Food Bank. If they're a nonprofit, we should be providing food to them. The one exception is what we call ready-to-eat food. This is food that's needed for children, elderly, and the homeless, those people who are unable to cook for whatever reason. Maybe they're not capable, or maybe they don't have the equipment to do it at home. That's what that 1% represents. Before COVID, we were receiving about 44% of our food from the United States Department of Agriculture and TDA. Today, that's 55%. Why the increase? The increase comes primarily from trade mitigation and for relief for our farmers and ranchers who today, because of COVID, cannot export their goods. So we have seen a drastic increase in food, a drastic increase in need. Our issue is not food. We have plenty of food to serve the community. In fact, we're looking at an additional distribution center in Parker County because our existing location is at max capacity. So we have plenty of food. And then about 55% pre-COVID, today 44% is donated. We're also very fortunate in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that we are in a community that is rich in manufacturers and retailers that provide generous donations in the form of food to Tarrant Area Food Bank. I don't know how many of you have seen the ALICE study that the United Way did. There's a misconception in the general public that those who are hungry are predominantly homeless or jobless, and that's not the case. The majority of our clients are asset limited or income restrained and also employed. So they just can't make ends meet. We're a safety net. They don't know whether they should pay their gas or their utilities or their rent or buy food for the family. So we act as a safety net. As I said, 1 million meals a week, and that's made possible by the 350 partner agencies. We are now also, because of COVID, doing mass distributions direct to client. So never in our history has Tarrant Area Food Bank distributed food directly to those people in need. We've always relied on those 350 partner agencies. But today, because the need is so great, we are hosting many mobile markets. This week alone, we did 55 mobile markets. We have a mobile market on Friday at the AT&T Stadium, and we are anticipating over 5,000 families to come out for food for that event. We've also started home meal delivery programs with assistance from Meals on Wheels and assistance from Catholic Charities. So for those families who are homebound for whatever reason, some of them are homebound because of the COVID. The whole family's been struck with COVID. They don't have a proxy, they don't have a means to get to a pantry or a mobile distribution. So Catholic Charities, through their transportation, is helping us get those meals directly to people's homes. We have pantries inside of schools. This is a program that we want to expand now that schools are back in, and hopefully, knock on wood, we'll be back in next year. But this allows families who are coming to pick up their children to stop by at a pantry. It's very convenient, and pick up food to take home for the family. This is a growing program. And we've just started conversations with John Peter Smith about healthcare food pantries inside of their clinics. So as community members are going for medical treatment, if they are identified through a screening process as being food insecure, they can also pick up food. This is what we look like across Fort Worth. The Shorten the line that we talked about briefly, we are really exploring this, and so is Feeding America and the network of 200 food banks. What else can we do besides giving food to help people get back on their feet so they don't need that safety net anymore? We have had a culinary training program, which we're planning to relaunch. It's being completely modified. We're working with the Workforce Commission to identify candidates who can participate in an 8-week training program followed by a 4-week externship program at the TASTE Project. We are also looking into FY22 building a warehouse on-the-job training program. We have a 80,000 square foot warehouse that we think we can provide some skills training for community members. We are also working on community gardens. This is a big growth vehicle for this year. We have 2 community gardens today, and we're looking at very targeted zip codes, which I'll show the group in a minute. There are 10 of them, to identify partners to put in community gardens where communities can grow their own food, harvest that food, and eat that food. We have farmers markets that we put on during the summer. We take those right into the zip code so that community members have access to the food that's healthy. And then we're also looking at children's programs. Today, we're doing a lot of kid-friendly food boxes. What does that mean? These are the ready-to-eat items that are harder to get. You pop the top and you're ready to eat the item. We're putting in school pantries, as I mentioned. We plan to start a summer camp this summer. 2 weeks worth of summer camp. One will be for children who need our support to learn more about food and to learn about nutrition, and the other will be for community members to learn about donating and giving back to the community. COVID-19 response. I don't think I have to tell anybody in this group, we've had a significant rise in unemployment. Our need has increased, and we've kind of settled out at 40%. We kind of went up and down. At one month, we were 80% higher. And then when all of the federal relief came in, it dropped quite a bit. And now we're pretty well leveled out at a 40% higher than pre-COVID state. Lots of new hungry families that just would break your heart. You know, people who have never had to use our services, but one or both have lost their income. The shelter in place and social distancing restrictions have had an impact on volunteers that we use at the food bank. Last year we had 20,000 volunteers that supported our effort. We do not take volunteers today inside the warehouse, only in outside events. We've had an unbudgeted burden of cost associated with hiring employees to come and work in the warehouse, whereas in the past we were able to use volunteers. I talked about the new delivery model where we're doing these mega distributions direct to client. They drive through, pop the trunk, we put the box of food in their car. This is far longer than I think any of us have anticipated. The best data that we're seeing through Feeding America is that this will go on for the next 24 months until the economy is fully recovered. You know, we won't go back to pre-COVID distribution rates. We may never go back there, frankly, because we did identify issues with not fully servicing our entire service area even before COVID. The new partnerships have been incredible. We're working with United Way, Catholic Charities, Meals on Wheels. We met with the chief from the fire department. We met with the CEO at MedStar, the COO of John Peter Smith. So we're really trying to reach out and work with the community in ways that we haven't done so much in the past. The forecast, you know, we will continue to have volunteer shortages until this COVID thing is gone. Higher than normal unfunded operating costs due to the lack of volunteers primarily, and the increase in distribution and the labor that's associated with that. We think right now we're good on food. We're getting a lot of federal assistance through the United States Department of Agriculture. However, we're trying to plan for the worst. Those support systems are due to expire December 31st. If they are not renewed, then we could be looking at a shortfall in terms of food. Lack of distribution partners, and that's something that I do want to talk to the council about in just a minute. We need more partner agencies in our communities, particularly in those high-need zip codes. Insufficient funds or food to meet the needs of the community, and then capital expenses. I mentioned that we have purchased a distribution center in Parker County to help us with those outlying areas, and that's an expense that we were not anticipating. Area of needs, this one, the number one is the number one. We're very, very interested in getting more involved in matters that deal with system change, a collective impact. When Victor was up here talking about Como, I don't know if he's still in the room, but I want to be a part of that solution. I want to be at the table at the beginning of the solution. How can we help that community? Having a collective impact, including Terranary Food Bank in any collaborative that deals with food insecurity. I've been brought in on a couple of initiatives at the tail end rather than the front end of the discussion, and I'd like to be a part of that at the beginning to help support the communities. And then anytime there's legislative issues, if we can support in some way as it relates to food insecurity, we want to do that. Food insecurity is directly tied to health, jobs, education, housing, and transportation. So if we're solving for health, jobs, education, housing, or transportation, we want to be there. We want to be a part of that solution. And then the Workforce Commission, I've just started working with them on that, on our training programs, and I would love to be more actively involved there. So if any of the council members know how I can get more involved with the Workforce Commission, I would love to have a conversation with you about that. Identifying additional partner agencies. When I've looked at our service area and populations in need of food, these are the zip codes that stand out in Fort Worth: the 104, 105, 106, 107, 116, and 119. I would like to partner with the council representative in these zip codes. You know more about this community than I do at this point. Maybe you can advise me on things that we could do to better support those communities. But right now, we need more partner agencies. That's bricks and mortars, nonprofits that can help us distribute food into these zip codes. And then funding for food desert solutions, and I want to talk about one in the 104, and this is the very end of my presentation, so I'm almost done here. I was just recently looped into Team 76104, which is a grassroots community-based faith leader organization organized, just at the grassroots trying to do something together in the 104. They're trying to expand, and I just want to point it out if you haven't heard of it, because I do think it needs more city support and more county support. Right now, it is truly faith-based leaders that are trying to organize the effort. But they asked, if we could take a look at what's the feasibility of, putting in some sort of a retail grocery store. And of course, that's out of our wheelhouse. I am no grocer. But I did look at some other communities in Waco, Dallas, and Galveston to learn their best practices. And I'll talk about that in just a second. This map shows you in the 104 what we currently have. And it's not enough bricks and mortars for the space, particularly on the southeast quadrant of this zip code. We need more bricks and mortars on the southeast quadrant. Nonprofits willing to help us distribute food. So going back to the retail-like grocery store, basically there are 4 models. There's this model where there's a public-private funded store. There's a model where it's privately funded and operated by a nonprofit. And then in Galveston, they're testing something very new. If you think about, your local Tom Thumb or other grocer that is doing online ordering, and you can go and curbside pickup, they've got a model like that, but it's operated by a nonprofit. And these are in their food deserts. In all 3 instances, the tech-driven solution is too new to say. They've just gotten started. But in the first 2 solutions, after multiple years, 3 and 4 years, they are still upside down and operating in the red. The 4th option is what Tarrant Area Food Bank is capable of supporting, and that is a client choice pantry that is operated by a nonprofit partner or a wellness on wheels. This is a model that is being used in Austin. It's also being used in San Antonio. And they've just started something similar in Pennsylvania called the Benefits Bus. It's a short-term, immediate solution. It's a mini grocery store on wheels. This mobile vehicle actually drives through the zip code with emergency food boxes, fresh produce, and more importantly, access to community resources. So there's somebody on the bus that can act as a referral for SNAP, which is a longer range solution for somebody who's in food crisis. They can act as a resource for WIC, Medicaid, CHIP, and other social service programs. In addition to that, there's an opportunity to provide health and wellness education on the bus. This has worked very effectively in both Austin and San Antonio. The keys to successfully operating these retail-like grocery stores and food deserts, they must be community-driven and community-owned. The example in Dallas largely has failed, according to those who are operating it, because they did not do that. And so the community doesn't feel like it is their grocery store and does not frequent the grocery store. Another key is ensuring that it is a relationship rather than transactional-based relationship. And, you know, so the store may never break even, or if it breaks even, more importantly, it's providing other types of resources and really fitting into the community. Everybody, it's a gathering point. Everybody goes there. The more people who will frequent it, the more likely it is to break even. More than a grocery store, it's a gathering place for fellowship and health and wellness.